Welcome to Lost and Found No More Secrets with DNAngels. We are a dedicated nonprofit organization helping people discover their biological roots through their DNA. Whether they are an NPE, not parent expected, donor conceived, adopted, or just searching, we're here to support you. Join us as we explore the importance of knowing where you come from, because your sense of identity is much more important than someone else's secrets. Welcome back to Lost and Found No More Secrets. Today, my co host is Laura. She is also a fellow genetic genealogist. We spend all of our time looking for moms and dads, and we thoroughly enjoy it. And we're going to just go right into our client story today. So, Adrienne came in 3 years ago searching for her grandfather. So, her mother had taken a DNA test, and her mother found out when she took the DNA test that her father wasn't actually her biological father. So she joined DNAngels, and it took a while. The case went through 3 separate hands. And finally, our angel Tess was able to bring it home. So let's welcome Adrien to the show. Hello, Adrien. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, ladies?
Doing great. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your story, your mother's story, and how she came to realize that she was an NPE.
Sure. My mom found out when it was about 1997. She had communicated with a family member, and she found out she was in her 50s that her father, the man she thought was her father, was not her birth father. She had no more information. She had to, at that point, my grandmother had already passed away, and my grandfather had passed away years prior to that, or the man we thought was my granddad, years prior to that in a bad car accident. So she had no one to go to find out her answers. So she was devastated, completely devastated. So it wasn't until that was 97. 2013 is when she finally went to Ancestry and took a DNA test. So all that time.
You said she found out in 1997 when they weren't doing DNA testing.
Correct.
Then.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know they weren't.
How did she find out that her dad wasn't her dad?
I'm going to be honest and say when I came home from work, she was devastated. So I didn't even ask her who told her or how she found out. But when I got home, she was like, my dad is not my dad. And she was like bawling because she's like, my whole life, 50 years. In her mid 50s, she's like, my whole life. I've been lied to. And she was so angry because she had no way to find out at that time.
So there was definitely a family secret in there that someone knew something.
Yes, someone knew something, yes.
Yeah.
And as time went on, there were more secrets pertaining to my mom. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So what year did she take that DNA test in?
2013.
2013.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets back the results, and that's when the red flag was like, something's amiss here, or did
Correct.
It still take longer for you to realize?
It still took longer because now here's the other family drama is that she was told that it was another man. So the people who in the town where we grew up, there was a gentleman that we knew. She was told that he was her father. So when she took her DNA test, she was looking for his surname, and his surname was nowhere to be found. So how a lot of times people don't know how to communicate with people that are their DNA matches. So mom's in the inbox like, hey, you're my cousin. Are you related to this person? That surname was Miller. And so she's like, are you related to this person? And so for years, from like 2013 to like 2015, she's asking every DNA match if they're related to the Millers. So she didn't know how DNA worked.
She wasn't asking the right questions.
Exactly.
Well, also that she was like one of the very first people to take DNA testing. I believe it started around the same time she did it.
Okay.
So she didn't have as big of a pool of people to find anyway. So
that's true.
You guys are on top of the game there, going right for it,
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's true.
Yeah, she didn't have so many people. It wasn't as popular, and it was just starting out then. So
okay, wow, I didn't think about that. Thank you for saying that.
So you get back the results in 2013. How long did it take you to realize this? I'm in over my head here. I need some help.
Immediately.
Immediately.
It was foreign to us. I'm looking at these names. Like, of course, I knew most of the people on my mom's side, which you know how it is that you will, like, someone reached out to her because she was an MPE and she was looking for her birth father. So we even helped a cousin find her birth father, but we had no leads when it came to our own. We realized quickly who her birth father was, one of my mom's first cousins. But when it came to our side, her paternal side, and at that time, it wasn't easy for us to determine who was paternal, who was maternal. Right now, you just got a whole pot of DNA relatives. Right.
Mm-hmm. I bet when that separation happened a few years back, that was a big moment in the case.
Yeah, it was a blessing because now I'm like, I'm all in, like, oh, this is so-and-so. And I'm like, look at these documents. Like, I know what I'm talking about. But back then, it was just all foreign to us. We had no idea what we were looking at.
Right. So how did you find DNAngels? Do you remember how you came across this?
My sister, quarantine. Okay. So we're on TikTok. Everybody's trying to find something to do with their time. Everybody's like, oh, this is too much. And my sister was on TikTok. We lived in North Carolina at the time. So she's in Raleigh. And I think I was in Morrisville, which is like 15 minutes away from each other. And she's swiping and she sends me this link. She's like, hey, you know, mom is looking. Maybe you can check them out. So I actually contacted them immediately.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you get connected with an angel. Yes. And the first angel that you had, I know that she tried very hard, wasn't able to get much further. So we have organized what we call our long-term team. So these cases that are longer haul cases that aren't, they either need a new match to come up to be able to solve the case, or we need help from the family, you know, someone like a higher DNA match to help us. Sometimes when that doesn't happen, we send that case over to the long-term team, which is what happened with your mother's case.
Yes.
So tell me about when the ball started to roll, when things started to come together.
When the ball started to roll, it rolled so quickly. So I want to go back just a tad. Just before we started long-term, I had reached out to a cousin. Her name is April. She's amazing. I reached out to her, we communicated, and we saw we were relatives, but we couldn't find the connection. So we communicated, this is before long-term. We communicated off and on, but because we couldn't find the connection, it was still a little bit of a disconnect until we could figure it all out. So now it was around Thanksgiving when Tess reached out to me. And she reaches out and she's like, hi, I just want you to know you've been moved. If you're interested, you've been moved into long-term. And we're going to do basically we're going to work as hard as we can to continue to find your mom's father. She was like, but it's going to be more on a monthly basis. And she's like, are you okay with that? I'm like, I'm absolutely fine. And honestly, I know that we could still find out more information now. Like, it's a never ending thing. If a new match pops up, it might be a sibling to my mom. Like, this is never ending. They just had $39 sales, so I know a lot of people
are testing every day.
Exactly. So
we call that sibling season, right?
Exactly. And that's another story. We're looking for siblings, so that's another. We'll talk about that another time. But with that said, I knew it was a long road, and I'm literally in the kitchen like baking pies, and I'm talking to Tess, and I'm like, sure, but I got a little excited because I'm like, you know, they're on it. It's not going to be as often, but they're on it. And when she jumped in the case, she started finding stuff right away. She also let me know to download or upload my DNA data in the other sites. And so she's contacting the people there. She's like, I found this match. She's like, does this name sound familiar? I'm like, no. She then found out that was from the maternal side. So she's literally like contacting me once a month. But it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was very detailed. Every time I spoke to her, she was giving me more information that I never got before. And as she's giving me this information, I'm like, oh, wow. I'm running to my sisters. Like, listen, this is what we're doing now. Like, this is the new information that they gave us. This is the surname. The surname is Lee. We had never heard the surname before. And then I'm looking at the matches, and Tess is searching, and she got started right away, and she started turning stuff over right away. It was more action than I had the entire 3 years. And I know everyone worked diligently to make sure that we found him. But there was something about once the long term started that I got excited because now stuff is starting to come up that I had never heard. One of the first angels was like, well, you know what, the case is in the Bahamas and we kind of have limited access to the information there. She's like, we're working. She's like, it might even warrant a trip. I'm like, hey, I'm down to go to the Bahamas. Like, if y'all want to come too, please do. But with she just kept digging. She kept digging, and every clue she would find, I'm like, wait, that name sounds familiar. Like that, I've heard that before. That's when the ball got rolling. Like as soon as Tess jumped in, and she's like, it's like she was looking through a microscope, and she's like really getting in there. She was getting all these great details, and that's when I got excited when the ball got rolling.
So was she able to find those Bahama records that she needed to find?
She did. Another thing she did, she was in a Bahamian group. There's like a genealogy Bahamian group, and she jumped in the group and she started asking questions. And then so I jumped in there, and in the same group, I'm still a part of it now. They're dropping surnames and stuff, but then from there we found different websites. And I know you all, I believe you use Ancestry, but also what is it, FamilySearch.org?
Family Search is another.
That's where we started to find a lot of Bahamian records.
So let's talk about your mom.
Yes.
Your mom passed away. I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much.
Your mother.
Thank you.
But we were able to find the answers.
Yes.
Before she passed away.
Absolutely, yes.
Tell me what that was like, being able to tell your mom.
It was, I know. So when we told her, we found out February 27th. That's when we found for sure, for certain. Like a little bit before that, we were sure. We knew, but February 22nd was when the final confirmation came, and she was at peace. Honestly, mom was 80, and she was like, not that she didn't care, but she had been on this roller coaster since she was 50 something, and so she was like I want to know, but if I don't find out, it's fine. So that's kind of the mindset that she had. But when I told her, she kind of was like, okay. So she was at peace with it, and she actually passed away like a month and a half after that. So things started to shift in another direction. But what I'm certain of, that she passed in peace. She got the answer to the question that she had been seeking for so long.
Bless Tess Macintosh for sure.
Yes.
Oh.
God bless her.
Yes. Yeah, this is a great story because even just today, I got a client, feeling discouraged when their cases take a long time. And it really is. It's just like, you just need that one, there could be, it's like one person tests.
Yes.
And you've got, a clue that leads you on the one direction.
Right.
So it's like, even we don't ever stop working. It just, it just seems like it takes a long time. And I understand completely how frustrating that is for you, but it's, like, you're a great lesson and you're a great inspiration for other people who are like getting, discouraged. So answers can happen anytime, which is great.
I think that a lot of times, I think it's awesome when it happens immediately. Like, I think it's awesome. Like, you get the DNA, you guys start working, and tomorrow morning you have the answer. That's awesome. But I think that everyone should know that this is a long road, and we should just take our time. And even there's a lot of people in the group that are discouraged. For some people, the answers they got will be the only ones that they have. But for some people, there will continue to be new answers. There'll continue to be new family members. Somebody who was mean might have a change of heart. Because a lot of times when people pass away, their children have been quiet the whole time. And when someone passes away, they're now free and open to now discuss. So I feel like that, yes, it is disheartening. I watched mom's roller coaster. My daughter was about 2 when it happened. And I saw she went through depression. She went through all kinds of things. But I feel like when you kind of have to just wait. It's a long process. You don't want it popcorn. Even the people whose cases are solved, stuff still unfolds. You've got to let it just unfold. And I feel like it takes time and just to have patience. And I know it's hard to say because it's people's life. It's difficult. Yeah.
Right. Adrienne, I have to say, one thing I have to say about you is, so we have a client support group that only it's a private group, and you can only get into this group by being a client of ours.
Yes, on Facebook.
And there's constantly people saying, I'm frustrated, or I need help reaching out. What advice? Adrienne, I see you in there all the time. I love
all hours of day and night.
The best advice. I have your profile picture memorized on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
I'm like, oh, good. Adrienne's got this. She's got this.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
This person. So when I saw your name on the show, I thought, this is great. I'm really excited.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I do, and I'm like, oh, because it's such a difficult road. it's so hard for everyone, and everyone's story has similarities, but every story is unique. And I know it's hard. There's someone in the group that I actually know from where I grew up, and of course I would never be like, "Hey, girl, I see you." You know, it's none. People's personal story is none of my business. But if there's anything that I can say, because I know it's hard. Like I saw my mom go through that. Like I saw her from the beginning of when she learned until she transitioned. It's hard. It's hard. So if I can say, you know, we're praying for you, or give some kind of encouragement to people, just letting them know they're not alone. The group shows them they're not alone. But everybody, it's a mom, it's a dad, and it's the people who you feel should be like, oh, I have a baby, but life happens, and it's unfair sometimes. But you know, it will be okay, and everybody is here for a reason. So I always want to just be encouraging in that group.
So when you finally get a name for your grandfather,
yes,
did the name sound familiar? Did you know
no,
this person,
never heard.
or did you figure
Nope.
out how grandma
Nope.
and grandpa met, or
nothing? During the process, we found out how they met. We know that they were in the same area, and yeah, so we figured out where they met. There were some clues. The very end, we found out that my grandfather was a next door neighbor to my grandmother. Like this is the day on February 27th. We're like, oh, oh, okay. And this is only based off of the World War II draft cards. The addresses on there were identical. And the crazy thing about that, again, Tess, the address no longer exists. The street name is, when you Google it, does not come up with anything. So initially she was like, it's fictitious. And I'm like, well, I actually know that area. So I think it might be an actual street name. So it wasn't until we saw the the World War II draft card that we realized, no, this was an address, and the numbers are like right next door. And I'm like, ooh, okay.
they're neighbors?
And then the second address that my mom lived at when she was maybe 2 years old was another street name that my grandfather lived on as well.
Did your grandfather have any other children?
Not that we know of, and that's the thing that we can't find. But I'm going to say that we do believe that a child will pop up at some time, because every census there was a new wife and there was a new relationship. So we think that there were some other kids in there somewhere.
I'm already jealous of that person that's going to reach out to you and say, "Hey, how are we connected?"
I'm like, yes, I will.
I will be well, first of all, we're going to Bahamas.
It's a class trip, guys. Let's go.
What an amazing story. Were you able to find any pictures of him?
No. No. I believe that'll pop up as well. No pictures yet. No.
Wow.
No.
And so your siblings, what is their feeling on all this that you took the
peace
job of making this
happen? Healing, it's not just for mom, it's for us as well. I have two sisters. My eldest sister, she on the DNA thing, her name is Yolanda, but she goes by Nzinga. She was raised with my grandmother, so she had a completely different perspective because she was there and she was around when certain things and conversations were had. So she's privy to some things where we found out later who the actual birth father was. She was privy to know who they thought it was and all that stuff. But their healing is the answer. Everybody's healing right now, and we're healing through her story.
Did you have any pushback from the family that you thought was your grandfather's when you started searching this? Okay.
It wasn't pushback. You know how every time I watch the TikToks, for every TikTok that DNAngels does, I watch them.
Yeah.
The ones on Sunday so you know how the family, if they think it could be a scam, or like, well, what does this person really want? And on Ancestry, we did get some messages from random people saying, hey, check out my SoundCloud. They're not actually DNA relatives, but yeah, so people are scamming and being secretive and funny on Ancestry. So it wasn't pushback, but it was like, okay, but how do you know me? How do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? I'm like, I don't know anyone, because I don't know this side of the family at all. But yeah.
Did it, finding out this discovery, did it like change the way you felt about the family, her birth certificate family?
No, love, just because you know what? And one of the things she said was she remembers that her father, the father on her birth certificate, kept trying to tell her. He kept trying to tell her. At different times in life, she remembers he would say something and she had no idea what he was saying. My grandmother would be like, not now, now's not the time. So, because he knew. Grandma, yes, he knew. But he loved her. And she's like, he loved me so much. And he was tragically taken from her in a car accident. So it was so difficult, but no, there's no love lost. And I'm one of those people that if you're family, you're family. I don't do like half cousins. I don't do half sisters. If you're my sister, you're my sister. If you're my cousin, you are cousins. I even adopt other cousins. It's all good.
The more the merrier, right? The more the merrier.
Yes. All love.
I'm sure when your mom realized that her dad wasn't her dad, it was like mourning him for a second time.
Yes. And she was very angry. She was so angry because she felt lied to by the people that are supposed to protect you, right? Nice. She was devastated. And that she was angry for so long. That's why I say I know that at the end of her life, she wasn't angry anymore. She was at peace. She was at peace. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, Adrienne, tell me, what advice would you give to somebody that has found themselves in the same situation, as especially coming from the daughter that's representing the mother that's an NPE?
Yes.
What advice would you give to somebody if it's taking a long time, or how to help mom navigate these emotions?
The only advice I can give you is what worked for me, and I'm a person of faith. For me, it was a lot of prayer, and it was a lot of patience. You cannot rush the process. There's no way you can rush it. And even if you do, and even if you think that this is the end and there's nothing else, something else will pop up. I can tell you numerous times throughout this entire process that someone would pop up and I'd be like, oh, it would be a new leaf, and not just on Ancestry, but a little bit of information direct to the case. And that's what caused it to be solved, was just this, and every time, Tess will tell you, every time something would happen, I would say, she'd be like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, don't be sorry. This is all new information, because from 2 years ago, everything you're telling me is new. I didn't even mention the fact that my grandfather's name is Reginald Lee, and my family has 2 Reginald Lees, and they came over to this country on the same census. And no one knew that. They thought it was one person. So she was really digging. And one of the days, it was like between Christmas and New Year's, she's like, Adrienne, she's like, I'm working on something. And she's like, I'm not going to tell you until I figured it out. And then when she told me, she's like, there's 2 people with the same name. I'm like, what? So she had to dig, because one Reginald Lee, and these family members each had like 10 kids. And then the next Reginald Lee had no kids, but that Reginald Lee was my mother's father. But when I fine tooth comb, she really did some amazing things. And they all lived in the same area. The middle names are different, but we found that over time. But she really kept digging. She kept digging. She really did an amazing job.
She's a rock star.
She is a rock star.
Did you and your sisters have any discussion about, like, what if you found out something, I don't know, juicy or not so? Did you have what you wouldn't tell your mom,
No, we're all realists. We're moms from New York. We knew that it could be a situation that was not a good situation. We go into it with open. It could be anything, right? Because we don't know. To this day, we don't know what took place. The only people who know were my grandmother, my grandfather, and God. Nobody else was there. So we don't judge. We're not judging. It's like we knew it could be anything, but it doesn't matter, because it's our DNA. It's our blood. It's family.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you have the gift to be able to give your future generations, your children, their children.
Yes.
They have the gift of knowing who their actual biological
where they lived and everything. It's amazing.
It's huge.
Yes, it is.
It's a great story too, that they were like the boy next door,
I was like, ooh. He was next door to the house. And my mom said, and at this point she wasn't feeling well, she goes, Dad would have killed him if she knew. I was like, uh-oh. I'm like, whoa. But yeah.
I hope you're able to find a picture of him one day. I hope that comes to fruition.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing. Yeah. One thing that I wanted to bring up is that through the search and finding the surname, she realized that a family in the town that she grew up with, there were 10 kids in this family as well. She used to play with them. They were her cousins. She had no idea. She played with them, they were around. And then when we in 2023 through 24, we lived in the same building with a main cousin that I communicate with now. I remember when he was little going to middle school, because my mom introduced, oh, that's my friend. She's like, Adrienne, and mom did not have a lot of friends. She didn't. She stayed to herself. She's like, that's my friend. That's my friend Mary. I'm like, oh, hi, Miss Mary. Mom embraces her and gives her a kiss. I'm like, oh, wow, they must have really been friends because mom's not that friendly with people. That was her cousin. She didn't know.
Oh,
and
wow.
so now the son is an adult. We talk. We just had a conversation the other day. And the best part of the story is that woman, her sister that lived in the building as well, her grandson and I graduated. We went through middle school all the way to high school together. So I called him like, listen, we need to talk. Wow. His mom is a direct descendant from that family bloodline. So I have cousins that I communicate with on a regular basis that I already knew and didn't know we were related. So it really is beautiful.
Well, and it's really interesting because obviously someone did know the family secret since they mentioned it to her. So I kind of wonder if maybe in the background there, maybe like he was around a little bit and knew, or
possibly. Yes, but everybody thought it was someone else.
Yeah, that's true.
And I to this day can't tell you who told her. I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
So
she never divulged that.
This is a good example of a case that probably would have never have been solved without the invention of affordable DNA testing.
Absolutely never. We would have never known, especially because it was another country involved as well.
Absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I hope you're still going to take your trip to go back and.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And
Heidi and I will join you.
So that was the thing. 2019, a girlfriend of mine is like, "Hey, do you want to come to Bahamas with me?" I'm like, "What?" I was a flight attendant. I was like, "What time do you need me there?" So I spent like 3 days there. I was in the land where he was from. Like he was born, like literally in the area where he was from.
Oh my gosh!
Like literally within minutes from where he used to walk around. I was vacationing there, not knowing. I knew we were from the islands, but I never knew where. And that was 2019, April of 2019. Yep.
I think you need to go back because that's
absolutely.
Where you find your
again. I'll let you guys know. We can all meet over there.
Yeah, it's crazy now that, I mean, I did DNA testing also like around the same time you did.
Yes.
And it was like so expensive, and now it's like the price is just going down and down.
Yes, yes.
I just feel like it's not only helping us figure these answers out quicker because there's so many more people in the database.
Yes.
But I think it's just going to help people who, $100. That's a lot of money. Like if you're,
it is right now for people. It is the $39.
$39. I think a lot more people will be like, oh, let's just try this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. I remember there's a guy in our community called Peter Boney. He was he was donor conceived, and he wrote a book. And I remember listening to a podcast, and he was one of the first, I think it was on 23andMe, but he was one of the first testers. I want to say he said it cost him like $500, $600, something like that.
More than that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I just remember thinking it was an astronomical number. Like
yeah.
And 39. And I know it's
because nobody was wanting to spend that much money.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And the cases that get me are the ones where they're like, oh, me and my sister just took a DNA test for Christmas as a joke. Every time I hear that, I go, uh-oh. Because I know something's coming out. Even if it's not their direct family, there's going to be a cousin. Somebody's going to pop out because no one thought when they were doing not even doing their dirt, but when they were having relationships or what have you, that there would be DNA and that their secrets would be told. No one ever thought that. But here we are now.
Well, and also I feel like Ancestry advertised for so many years, like do our test to find out what country you're from.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So I feel like so many people just did an Ancestry test and say, oh, am I Italian? Am I Irish? Am I German? And not even looking at the DNA matches, not even thinking twice about it.
Right.
And I think that, as more and more people get in, they're going to get contacted by people. And then you're right. It's like, you're doing it for fun to check what country you're from. And
all of a sudden it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like the truth is always worth knowing. No matter how hard it is.
Yes. It's always worth knowing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, oh my goodness. You guys are lucky.
Moms aren't going to be able to have those secrets anymore.
No.
Everybody, I mean, I'm a big Jeopardy nerd. I watch Jeopardy twice a day, not once.
Nice.
And they're always having Ancestry commercials. And I think to myself, what demographic are they trying to reach?
And people go, oh, it's $39.
But what's going to happen is moms are going to know that they're going to get caught, that they can't say that someone else is the dad anymore.
I think human nature, they're going to do it anyway, unfortunately.
Well,
They're just,
I also see the flip side where the dads are going to start getting
yes,
more response, like more accountable, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like finding it out. So,
yeah.
It's a different world we live in for sure. And
absolutely.
You can't judge what happened in the past. No. We didn't live that way. No, so there's no judgment involved at all because no one knows the situation exactly like you said. But we're just here to find out the truth. And everyone deserves to know the truth. And
absolutely.
Where you come from. So.
I agree.
Well, Adrienne, I appreciate you coming on the show today. And I'm so happy that you were so patient with us, and bless Tess for doing such an amazing job and being able to find out the answers before your mom passed away.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing.
It definitely was. Yes. Thank you so much for having me on today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your help, and thanks for helping us find my granddad.
And
new relationships with amazing cousins. And
well,
thank you so much.
I know that I'll be hearing from you in the client support group if anything.
Yes, you will.
Thank you, Adrienne. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Wow.
It's a great story.
I know. And I love those longer stories because it's just when it happens, it happens. And, like you hate to tell someone not to be discouraged, but,
I love because I've been there. You've been there. We've spent, I've had cases for a year and I'm just like, it's just not coming together for me. And I love that we have the ability to say, we are not giving up on you just because I'm not able to solve your case at this time. We have this whole organization that will devote 100% attention to your case. And so I love that, having that ability, because people don't feel like I'm at a loss. I have no hope.
Right. And they don't feel abandoned. You're so right. It's just so nice that there's people keeping on top of it, like you said.
And they're solving cases. Solving cases that have been around for years. And so I'm so proud of that team.
Well, and also there's new things happen every day. Like in the last few months with Ancestry, we now can see matches and
the shared matches.
Huge
right.
So now it's like all those other cases, they can get the fresh eyes with all of that, which I think is important. To go back to. So everyone needs to know their answer, and look at how great, I think we need to send her a DNAngels shirt because she's like a spokesperson for us here. She's like a cheerleader.
She does. How on our Facebook profile picture we have the circle with saying that one strain at a time. We need to give her the icon, the Facebook icon, and the t-shirt. She earned it.
Megaphone being like, hey. She was great. She was so great. So, but I love these stories. It's just everything's there's so many things that are the same in stories, but everyone is so unique and personalized. And I think it just gives anyone hope who's looking for these answers. They can find a glimmer of something that they're experiencing also, which is so great. So
I can picture Tess too. I can picture Tess at the computer, sit down at the computer at 7:00. Let me just look for this one record. And then before you know it, it's 2 a.m.
I know. I do see Tess all hours a day.
Yeah, but it's so rewarding when you do find that census record or you find that missing piece. It's so rewarding, and you don't even care about the last 8 hours that you spent.
It feels like 2 seconds, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like 2 seconds. Exactly.
I know. So, well, this was a great one. Thanks, Heidi.
Yes. Well, thank you, Laura, for being my co-host. I always look forward to your smiling face. We're going to wrap up the show. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, like, and comment. We really appreciate it. We appreciate those viewers of ours that keep coming back, and we welcome the ones that have just found us today. And I hope that you come back for our show for next week. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.